to Show Up, Stand Out Online Visibility Series for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Juliette Stapleton. You know me as the Queen of Visibility, but actually I'm a social media content master strategist. Today I'm going to talk about maybe something beyond the strategies because I have an amazing guest. Let me introduce you to Steve Werner. And Steve helps entrepreneurs and influencers grow through authentic presentations and live events, and has helped his clients earn more than 1.8 million in the last 6 months. This is really bloody impressive. So I am so looking forward to having a chat about this, especially because there's a keyword in that introduction: authentic presentations. And before we go and talk about the authenticity, Steve, how did it happen? How did you end up doing what you're doing now?
Sure. First off, thank you so much for having me on the show. So about 6 years ago, I worked for a corporate organization. I worked for Vail Ski Resorts, if you're familiar with them. They're the biggest ski resort in North America. And what I did was I ran their high-end events. So all their corporate level events, people would come in and I ran their events. There were 20 to the largest event that we held was about 5,000 people, all CEO level, C-suite, high-end stuff. And I decided to go out on my own. I really had this burning desire to do my own thing, to serve other people, and to really, make a difference in the world. And I knew that I couldn't do that at the job. So I left and I went out on my own. The first event failed miserably. I moved to Las Vegas, fell flat on my face, but I'm pretty stubborn. I think entrepreneurs we all have that thing. So I moved into a friend's utility room. I studied a whole bunch. I held my next event 6 months later with my very last money. I won't go too far into it, but held that event, and it was a success, mild success. I made a couple $1,000s, but it got the ball rolling. And over the last 5.5 years, I've now held 43 events. I've spoke on more than 85 stages now. All those events were profitable except for the first one. And I've also helped my clients. Now we're at over 20 events that I've helped my clients hold.
Wow, that is impressive. And to me personally, and this is, I'm sharing like my big secret, I've been building my visibility as myself, as my own brand, all from this room, right? I would love to go and do some public speaking, but it's where I'm based. It's such a hassle to travel from here that, I am now trying to relocate to another country so I'm closer to the airport, so I can travel and so I can finally speak publicly. So I'm just practicing through the online space. And you know what? It still was absolutely amazing. So I'm in awe with when people can go and influence people in the room, in a real time. But I know that a lot of people have this whole thing about, speaking in front of a group of people, how they have to present themselves. And I think that that's the biggest problem that holds people back, because, it's about how do they expect me to show up? And what advice do you have if somebody is, let's say like myself, say I didn't have this practice of doing live videos and talking and everything, and I want to do public speaking, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I am not that, I don't know what they expect me to be, and what do I do? What's your stance on this? How to approach this?
Absolutely. So I'll give you a few, there's a lot of things in there. The first one is you are doing the perfect thing. Facebook Live is the absolute best way to get good at speaking, and it's free. If you're scared that people are going to judge you, you know what? People are going to judge you. That's going to happen. But here's the thing. They're not nearly as harsh on you if you're just yourself. If you try to be somebody that you're not, if you try to put on this face and be, I'm all super professional, and they're going to judge you a lot harsher. If you just go live and you just have a conversation about what you're doing and who you are and what's going on in your life, people understand that, and they will connect with you much faster. So I'm going to make a kind of polarizing statement. Like, you see the speakers associations who say, practice, 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 take out all the ums, ahs, uts, don't stutter. All of those things are nice, but they are nowhere near necessary. Your goal when you are speaking, whether you're speaking on Facebook Live or at a group, your goal is to connect with people. That's the whole point of doing any kind of public speaking, is to connect. If you're running a business, which is, I teach people to get on stages and to build events so they can grow their business. And the way that you're going to grow your business is by having people know, like, and trust you. And if you are too well-spoken, if you are too polished, if you're too plastic, people won't connect and you won't grow your business. The number one way to connect is to be authentic, to be real. And you know what? If you should have your speech outlined, right? So what I teach people to do, let me grab a Post-it note. This is a tip. This is what I teach people. So you take the Post-it note, it's sticky on this side, right? Lay the sticky side up, write 3 bullet points, and you put it on the back of your phone, like so that when you're holding up your phone, you can read your bullet points, but you want to look at the camera. So you either look at the camera or you look at not the camera. Don't go back and forth because it breaks. People are like, oh, he's not authentic. Either look at the camera. So the camera on the phone is right here, right? Or look at the other side. Look at one or the other, not both, and read your bullet points. That's all you have to do. So you should have an outline. You don't have to have it perfectly memorized. It doesn't have to be word for word. And then just do it. That's the thing. If you want, do it in a group that you know, like, and trust people, because they'll give you honest feedback.
I love that advice. Actually, I love the advice where you put the sticky note on the phone. That is brilliant, because I do a lot of live videos on my computer. You know, I kind of like the setup. But yes, if you're on the go, I think that bullet points are important. Someone like myself, I go on off topic a lot and I try and make this big point and I forget then what the point was. I call it Juliette Stapleton effect, you know, and then I just like, usually I remember what I want to say, but you know, it goes through the motions where I admit that I forgot and all this. But sometimes there's another thing that I might just add to your tip. When we have bullet points, we don't necessarily like read them, because I find that when people prepare the text that they read off, that gives this bad energy. It's not natural. So it's much better to just, don't mind that you were saying arms and you knows, and I'm not in English speaking. I make up words and grammars, new grammar rules, and you know, there's so many things. But you know, I stopped even editing my podcasts and show, like if I speak, I stopped editing it out because it's natural. And in the real life, that's how people speak. And in the real life, they don't look constantly into your eyes. That's weird, you know, people kind of, so if you have your bullet points, it's okay if you just glance there, as long as your look still natural. You know, when I speak, I never look into somebody's eyes. I always look somewhere else. You know, 3 seconds at a time, they say is good for establishing pattern. But yeah, so like, I think that a lot of people are getting really hooked up on this, you know, on what to say, read, or, you know, where do I look, and all these things. And I think on stages probably is the same. You know, how do people make up all these things, the buts, what they have to, you know, the to-do lists, instead of just coming up and sharing the story or sharing what they have to share.
Well, you touched on the key word there is story. So story sells better than anything else. It's also highly engaging to your audience. So there are 2 broad outlines for stories. If you're trying to figure out things to share, right? I'll give you both of them. They're both similar and they play off each other. The first one, Russell Brunson teaches, it's the Epiphany Bridge. And every story goes through this. So it's the pain and the drama up front, right? What is the pain that you were experiencing? What was the epiphany that you had? And then what was life like after you had the epiphany, you took the steps and you reached your goal? So the way that you can think about this story, right? Juliette and I were talking, I've lost weight over the last 10 weeks. I joined a weight loss challenge. So when I joined, I'm not horribly overweight or anything like that, but I was about 15 pounds heavier than I wanted to be. And my pain was, I was tired when I got up in the morning, my pants weren't fitting. Like, you know how it is. You're like, oh gosh, did I really do that? Like, how's that feel? Oh,
I just went through the same story. This is why we were discussing it. So I really feel that pain.
So you want to talk about the pain that you feel, and by talking about your pain, your audience is going to identify with you. The more pain you share, this is the secret. The more pain you share, and the more raw you are about the stuff that you go through, the more your audience will identify with you. Because if you come off as somebody who's perfect, they're like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that. So share the pain. Then the second part is the epiphany. Well, I joined this weight loss challenge. I knew I had to cut out all the sugar, and I was going to stop drinking. I don't drink a lot anyway, but I cut 95% of the alcohol out. And I was like, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start running every day, running or walking. That was my epiphany. Well, now I'm back down. I've lost not only 15 pounds, I've lost 19 pounds as of this morning. I got 5 days left in the challenge. It wasn't that hard. I just had to build in the routines, but I feel better. I have more energy. That's the story. So that's the story arc. The second thing that I would tell you, if that doesn't resonate, or if you're like, oh, I don't know how I fit that in. So you draw 2 lines on the paper. So you have 3 columns. And the first one is you put all your pain, like what is a life event that you had where you knew your life was going to change? You want to put that over here. The second part is the pain that you experienced that caused you to want to make that change. Like what were your feelings and thoughts? The third part is, now that you're on the other side of it, what was the life lesson from that? And this is the secret. Some people are like, well, I just don't have anything. You know what? Talk about a movie character. Talk about somebody that's in the news. Like, that framework applies to anyone, and it makes telling that story interesting.
That is so true. And I actually, in my experience, and I work with people as well in terms of storytelling and their origin story, there's always, we have so many pinnacle moments. It's about choosing the one that is relevant to your audience. And a lot of people, when you think that I don't have that, you just haven't actually thought about it. But when you start writing down things can pour. For me, the kind of turning point, it was a couple of years ago, I sat down and I wrote down the story of my life in bullet points, because I was interested to see what are my natural traits are. And I could see them in bullet points, like, what did they say about me as a toddler? What did they say about me like 5 to 10 years old? What do I remember? And then I just looked at it and I was like, oh my God, I am resilient as, I am really, really good at this. And I, like, no matter what happens, I never give up. And that was very empowering. And from that point, then you start looking at yourself differently. So I think that's like that kind of advice. And you said 3 columns. So first is like what you were going through that wasn't great. And then what is that pain that caused you to change, right? And the second one. And then what it is now. And people do relate to that. And that doesn't make you a hero, because you're sharing that you were just exactly where maybe they are now.
It makes you 100% relatable. And then you don't ever want to do this until you're through the thing, right? Because if you talk too much, then you look like a freak show. If you think about Britney Spears, right, when she shaved her head and went nuts, she was talking about the problems that she was having in the middle of it. You want to wait till you're on the other end. And that first column not only has to be, it could be the pain, but it's also a moment in your life when you knew something changed. I mean, for me, like the diet story I just told, that I was on a 12-week road trip. I came back and I got home and I stepped on the scale and I was like, this has to change right now. That was like the moment, right? The other moment, when I knew I had to leave my corporate job, I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more. I wanted to affect people. I knew I couldn't do it in my corporate job. I left a 6-figure salary to go out on my own and do what I believed was right. Like, that's a moment. That's like the catalyst.
It's like a thought, isn't it? For me, I remember the biggest thought was just realizing that even though I'm running my business for 6 years, I'm like an employee. I am not a business person. I don't have any control of my business. That was such a shocking idea. And it didn't just come into my head. I actually read a testimonial of somebody about another coach that they thought that. And that was like somebody poured cold water over me. I was like, this is it. This is what's happening. And it's always just this moment, this thought. It's not actually something that might be happening as a fact, as an event, isn't it?
Right.
I want to ask you a question, because we're talking about, and I love this topic about, being vulnerable and talking about the pain. What is your opinion on when people start showing their emotions and then they get emotional? Like, how far is far enough? You know, there's a lot of people that they get very teary, they start pouring it out. Like, in your opinion, how do you think, how much you should be opening up?
I mean, I think that it's fine to be emotional, and I think it's fine if you cry if it warrants it. If you are like, I've seen some people who just, they, every live is a crying session, and that's not, I don't think that's good for you or your brand or anything. But if it's once in a while, people are like, you should always be yourself. You should not hide your emotions. If But I would look at your lives. If you're doing a lot of lives, if you're doing 2 or 3 lives a week, I would look at them, and if you're crying in every single one, or if you're being negative in every single one, people are not going to tune in and watch them. It's fine to start off with the pain, but you have to take people to a positive. This is like the story arc, right? These are the unhappy people over here. They have a problem in their life. They want to lose weight, right? Or they want to go live, or they want a positive interaction. This is the story arc. This is you over here being happy, right? If you never take people there, if you just focus on this, people are like, no one's gonna tune in anymore because nobody wants to feel bad, right?
That's
Think about a
true.
movie. Like, if you go to a movie, most people don't want to go to a movie where they leave feeling worse than they went in. So it's fine to start with the pain and the drama, but you have to take people somewhere. That's what I would say about that piece specifically.
I
Um,
really love it, because you know, we have responsibility to give hope, to say, hey, you know, you can be more, you can be better. And I think that these are the key words in your how you present yourself in your business, isn't it? Be more, be better. It's so up my street, and this is what I feel like. I feel like this is what I'm here for. So when you start crying too much or being angry, that means that there's something in yourself you need to still go and address, rather than going, this is not really, for me, it's not actually authentic vulnerability. This is just, you haven't figured it out yet. As like you said about Britney Spears, you know, that's not the time to share. So yes, just be careful if you're just starting this journey of sharing publicly. You know, be a little bit strategic. That doesn't make you fake. That doesn't take authenticity out of you, what you're doing. But you do still have to present yourself as a brand, which is someone who gives hope or makes it better or takes the pain away.
I mean, I would 100% agree. If you're struggling with that, if you're sitting there thinking about it, just think about like, you don't have to have a super crafted offer or anything like that. Just think about how you want people to leave your lives feeling. Do you want them to feel happy? Do you want them to feel hopeful? Do you want them to feel inspired? And if you're telling a story, I don't care if it's a story about a restaurant that you go to. When I started doing lives, I used to tell stories about restaurants because I knew a lot about them. So I'd go to the restaurant and I would tell the story about, why I was going there, what I was excited about, how the food was. And if something wasn't good, I would say that, but I wouldn't beat them up. One of the most damaging things I think that you can do is to throw stones at a person. It's one thing to throw stones at, a method or something. You can be polarizing in your statement, but don't ever throw stones at a person. It just makes you look bad. You can throw stones at something they're doing, at a method, at something you don't agree with. That's totally fine, but don't throw the rocks at the person. That would be it just
I
came to
agree
mind.
with that. I agree with that. Even in a way, when they wrongdo you and you feel like you need to expose someone, because as a user who say reads a post like this, I don't like negativity in my life. I don't even watch news because of that, because they bring me down. So when I read something like this, that just affects my energy, and I'm like, don't know if I wanted to see this today. Yes, I care, but on the other hand, I don't care. And I think that it's important that we put ourselves, like, how I put myself in the shoes of my reader a lot, and I think, okay, where I analyze what I do, like this example, and So this is how I strategically produce content. And I'm thinking, should I do this or not? Because there'll be people who just say, I don't know, I like her, but, and you don't want that. That's a little bit of, like, it's like adding little dirt in a glass of water. Would you drink that water after it's been poisoned? Like you wouldn't really. So yeah, I know we have a very short session for the amount of things we can talk about, including restaurants and food, because that's something that I absolutely love. But let's talk about Monetize Your Tribe.
Sure.
Yes. What is it?
So Monetize Your Tribe is my brand. I go under Stephen Philip Werner, but Monetize Your Tribe is kind of the brand that I've built. And the point behind it is there are so many people out there who are getting started, or they've got a group, or they've like done some stuff and they've got a little bit of traction, but they're trying to figure out how to go to the next level, right? They're trying to figure out how to break 6 figures, how to break 7 figures. And the easiest way to do that is to either speak, if in my opinion, is either to speak on stages or to build your own small event. Either one of those, the connection that you get live and in person. I know we started this conversation a little bit. You were talking about you would love to travel more and be on more stages. In the US, it's a little bit easier. It changed my life when I started holding events, because you can sell something much easier from stage, and the thing that you're selling is a higher ticket item. And the example that I show is a lot of people, especially in the digital marketing space, are selling a $10 book or a $50 book, or maybe even a $500 item. Well, the thing is, if you're selling a $500 item, you're probably spending a decent amount of marketing to get somebody to buy that. By going on stage or by holding your own event, you can sell a $10,000 plus item. And through doing that, like, how many $10,000 items do you have to sell to replace your income? You could become a full-time entrepreneur much easier and live the lifestyle. And live events, whether it's speaking on somebody else's stage or speaking on your own stage, is really powerful. And I've shown a lot of people, a lot of people, when they think of stages, they think of 100 people, 150, 300 people. You can do this speaking to groups of 10, 15, 20 people, because this is what I found in my events. When I first started holding events, I was 150, 300, 500 people. And what I found was people wanted smaller events because they got more interaction with the person. They got to ask their questions. They felt like it was much higher value, which it was. When I started holding events that were 20 people and I capped them at 20 people, my ticket price went up, and I also started closing. So a 100-person room, you're going to close 15, 20% if you're a rock star, maybe a little bit higher. When you're holding a 20 or 25-person event, you're going to close 50 to 75% of the room if you want to. If you're selling high ticket coaching that's one-on-one, you might not even want to. You can cherry pick the perfect people to work with you, which makes your life a whole lot better. So that's kind of the method that I teach in it. And that's kind of what it's all about. It's about authentically connecting with people, really building relationships and serving people. So it's quality over quantity. It's kind of the opposite.
I love it. It's just so up my street as well. It's just everything you're saying, is the same. The only element I'm missing is that I'm in a location where it becomes so much hassle to travel. But I am moving into such a wonderful location to organizing events. Maybe you'll come and organize an event in Tallinn, Estonia, which is like the Paris of the North. So I have a link here that, guys, if you want to find out more about Monetize Your Tribe, you can go to myt.how. And it is a training, isn't it, that you get on that? Yeah, and yes. You can watch a training and Steve, like, this is not, I know that we were talking about 6 figures, 7 figures, but I think that this will benefit even if you're not making 6 figures yet. It really would benefit.
Absolutely. I take you through how to tell a great story, because really what it comes down to, what I teach people to do, we've all been to a boring event, right? Where somebody puts up a PowerPoint slide and it's got stuff all over it and you fall asleep. I teach you how to speak, whether it's on a Facebook Live or whether it's on somebody else's stage or your own stage. I teach you how to do a presentation that really grabs people's attention and connects with people. And that's what the training is. It's completely free if you go to that website. It's myt.how. you will get it. And it will help you regardless, even if you're not making any money right now. It'll just help you get better at presenting.
It doesn't matter if you're making money, because visibility and building your authority is priceless investment of your time. And you should be doing that much more than, and of course, trying to get some cash. But it is something that's very important in the beginning stages as well. This is what I always say as well. Steve, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. I absolutely loved this show. Guys, if you have any questions, pop them in the comments, reach out to Steve, go and get that training. Even if you are doing lives and speaking, like, we are learning all the time, because we want to be better and we want to be more, right? So thank you so much for being my guest, guys. I will see you in another episode of Show Up, Stand Out. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you later. Bye.